Face to face, hand to hand, film to film.
Welcome to another episode of Film to Film. My name is Iñaki Liñero, and I'm here with my good old friend James Shergan. How are you doing, James?
I am well. How are you, Iñaki?
Doing pretty well. It's October. You know, it's the spooky month.
Yeah.
You know, we're supposed to talk about spooky things, you know, because I rarely pick movies that are horror. Rarely.
Yeah, but you know, I've been saying do it, and you did it. You picked another horror movie.
Another one. It's funny because this one is from. Technically, it's more on theme with my last pick than.
Yeah. But, you know, I mean, it fits. It's technically at least partly a horror movie, a horror action, similar to the original.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think this one would have worked better for Thanksgiving. I'm just joking.
Wow.
I know.
Happy Yom Kippur.
You know, this would be great for Christmas. It's a Christmas film.
Yeah.
Anyways.
What movie are we talking about?
Yeah, what movie are we talking about? We're talking about the 2022 film called Prey.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to just jump into the quick summary before we start talking about it. I actually want to hear what you think about it. So I got this from IMDb. Whoever wrote it, credits to you. Obviously, IMDb doesn't give you credit, so I'm not giving you personally credit either, unfortunately. All right, summary. Naru, a skilled warrior of the Comanche Nation, fights to protect her tribe against one of the first highly evolved predators to the land on Earth.
Yeah. I think that sums it up well.
Yeah, I think I would have taken out the word protect.
That's true. It's more about hunt, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So more about, you know, earning that, being a hunter and earning her first hunt as opposed to, or her first big hunt as opposed to protecting her land. Although, yeah. So, this is your second time watching it, I believe, correct?
It is, yeah. I watched it when it first came out, and then you selected it, and so I watched it a second time, this week.
Yeah. And, you know, this is my first time. So what are your overall thoughts about it?
I like it. I feel like it does carry... I think it carries kind of that simple premise of a predator just to a different setting, and I think it works quite well. I like how it's kind of a one set thing, so I think it makes use of that in a way where Hollywood is kind of oftentimes doing like kind of multiple sets. If you think about like your standard Avengers film, we're punching around all over the different place. So I like it as kind of like an old school in that sense, meet sort of new school using like a little bit more new technology and stuff like that. So I wouldn't say I absolutely love this film, but I think it's a damn solid effort.
I think this is a great little movie. It's not too big. It's not too ambitious. I mean, it is ambitious in many ways, but I mean, it's not like, as you were mentioning, it doesn't go all over the place. It's a simple plot to follow, and I believe that they do a really good job at it. Now, you've seen many of the Predator movies, right?
You know, I've seen Predator, Predator 2, Predators, the Adrian Brody one, and this film. So I have not seen either of the Alien vs. Predators, and I've not seen the Shane Black Predator. So
Okay.
I've seen half, I guess.
So where do you put this one in?
Probably second best. For me, I think I like the original Predator more than you do. I think this film does not quite match that one, but I would probably put this after that. I don't really care for Predator 2 that much, and this one and Predators would probably be pretty close. I enjoy Predators a bit as just kind of like a B movie thing, but yeah, I would say this and Predators are pretty close to second for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've only seen Predator, Predator 2, and Alien versus Predator. So in that, I put this one almost at the same level as the first one. Obviously, the first one has gets a plus point in the sense that it's the first one, and even though that's a weak ass excuse to put it first, it is the one that sort of sets up everything that Predator movies have, and therefore,
Yeah.
it just has that extra added value. Although I must say, this is a really, really good Predator movie too. I think.
Yeah. One thing I do like about this film, and tying it back to the first one because we saw it so recently, is it really does keep the spirit of the original one in the terms of like the Predator and kind of like that consistency of your villain, how the Predator acts and stuff like that. I think it's pretty well like the lineage between that film and this film. I think it's pretty well connected. So I do like that about sort of the first film and this film. I'd have to think a little bit more about how the other films fit in, but I like how it's still very much about kind of like the Predator is stalking and he's trying to basically hunt the apex predator, and we watch him kind of level up as he goes from like rabbits to snakes and to bears and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, as someone who has not seen nearly as many Predators, I mean, there's lots of Predator movies that have come out. I mean, I think watching this one, I feel like I did not miss anything. Granted, it's sort of a prequel, if you will, because it's set out in the early 1700s. But nonetheless, like, I think it does feel like a Predator movie in this, minus the music, of course. We don't have the weird, bombastic yet comedic 80s film music. Instead, here we have
a very conventional score in a way.
Very conventional, but very moody in moments.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good score. I just think it's it's not a score that it's a score that's most modern audiences would say, okay, I see what they're doing here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I agree. I think one area that I actually do think this one almost in a way it's like the yin and yang of the original Predator, is that although the theme, how Predator itself works and all of that is the same, the original is, as we even laughed about it, is the excess of gun machinery, of just like sheer gunpowder, like all kinds of machine guns, bazookas, bombs, all that stuff. And then here you can really strip away all of that. I mean, the only guns that you have are the ones where you literally have to put like gunpowder and shove like little, and that you probably missed half the time, if not almost all the times.
Yeah, and they kind of poke fun at that a bit when the French guys are trying to take down the Predator. But yeah, I would say that is a major difference here. Like Predator, the original, kind of does become a man on a mission film at different points. And this film, while it hints at that when sort of the indigenous tribe is getting together and sort of hunting it, it never really is that. It's more tracking Naru, the character, throughout her journey in terms of kind of trying to defeat the Predator. Yeah.
Although they did shove in the, if it bleed, it can be killed.
Yeah. No, they had a couple callbacks. They had that one, which I'm on board with these, and they did the do it at the end, where Nadu is in the trying to trap the Predator with his own laser thing.
Yeah. Um, so, anyways, let's. First, I guess I'll give you a little bit more details about the film. We got the This was directed by Dan Trachtenberg. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but he directed. He's known for 10 Cloverfield Lane, as well as directing a whole bunch of like episodes of TV shows that I'm not going to list out because whatever. The writer is Patrick Asen, as well as Dan. Music by Sarah Schachner. Cinematography, Jeff Scudder. Costume design, Stephanie Portnoy Porter. And they also had, like, among the producers, they had like a Comanche, a person who was a Comanche member who I think threw in a bunch of ideas, and her name is Jane Myers, or yeah, I believe it's pronounced Myers.
Mm-hmm.
So, before we're like jumping in, like one area that I think was has been discussed is how like this movie is all like has this heavy focus on this native tribes, native community, the Comanches to be precise, and it's set in the early 1700s. You have any thoughts on either the setting, that it's a historic piece, or?
I mean, I think it's a cool setting. I like the idea of just picking a place or setting and just buying into it. I mean, I think you could honestly have. I've seen some people say the idea that you could just like do a Predator movie in all kinds of different places and you could have a good time. Just because it is such a simple premise, and putting into different settings can make it interesting. And from what I understand, they did a ton of research into the Comanches and stuff like that, and they really did try to be historically accurate to kind of those things. So a lot of times the truth is just much richer than anything you can actually come up with. So as far as like sort of a storytelling technique to further enrich the story, I think it does work quite well. I'm not in any position to sort of fact check or or do anything like that on that, but I do appreciate sort of the detail and stuff like that goes into it, and I do think that all of those things sort of contribute to make a textured and richer canvas to sort of paint this very simple Predator story onto. So I give those things pretty much a thumbs up.
Yeah, me too. I also find a little bit interesting the year that they put this in, because it's like right before the French and Indian War. Granted, again, I don't know. We obviously cannot. I'm assuming they did their job on the history, but I did think it was kind of interesting that the bad guys in this one are the other human bad guys were the French, and I was like, and I don't know. It to me was odd in the sense that historically speaking, the French and Indian War, which was a little bit after the events of this movie, if you will, it was the French united with the Indians against the Brits. Meaning that the French actually had a good relationship with Native Americans. It's the Brits who did not. And it was just, again, this is more of Nathaniel thinking, but
yeah, I mean, I have no idea. Like, I don't know. You would think that if they put that much research into it, they would look at that stuff too, but I don't know.
Although, who knows? Maybe these are fur traders. Maybe they were assholes beforehand.
Yeah,
who knows?
And I mean, do we know which tribes were allied with the French too? It's like could have been different ones than the Comanches too. I don't know.
Right. I mean, where were the Comanches on? Like, were they because basically like high. Oh, okay, Oklahoma, Southern Plains. We're digressing.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a dude tier. Like, we're the Comanches on the French Indian side on the French Indian War. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. It just caught my attention. That's all, really. I mean, to me, it perhaps my only complaint on the setting and the culture that is picked is not really about the culture or the setting. But I kind of wish everyone spoke Comanche the entire film.
Yeah, well, there is a version where it is dubbed in Comanche.
Right. But I wish that the official version would have been all in Comanche, because it made no sense for me that there was English. Like, this is early 1700s. Clearly, they barely had any contact with European colonizers. So
Right.
and
Well,
if anything, the only contact they had was with French. So it's like,
yeah, they did the Ridley Scott thing. Like in the last duo in House of Gucci, we have the Italians speaking English with Italian accents, and the French in the last duel speaking English with, well, I don't even think Matt Damon really even attempts an accent. So there you go.
it makes sense.
Yeah.
I in House of Gucci, though, do they like talk to some people in Italian and then to some people in English? Because I mean that was my issue with this one. It's like you had Comanglish, if you will.
Yeah. No, House of Gucci, it's more or less just straight English, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Lady Gaga knows Italian.
Oh no, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, again, and this is like a small little gripe that I had while watching a movie. I was like, okay, why do they talk to the dog in Comanche, but they don't talk to each other in Comanche? Like, you know, again, this is a small. I just
All
wanted
right,
to
Nathaniel. Get it all out.
Wanted to get that one out. Just because, like, I think it would have been cool. Granted, I mean, my guess is that it would have been too difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, learning a whole new language that I'm assuming not everyone speaks.
Well, anyways, while you've been going off, I did look up the French-Indian War, and it does not look like the Comanches participated on either side of it. So it would have been, at least separate from that conflict.
There you go. So yeah, I guess, and I know I haven't jumped into a movie yet, but one last thing I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about this movie coming directly to streaming and to Hulu, for all that matter?
I don't know. I'm kind of just resigned to whatever happens as far as that goes. I mean, is it a movie that probably would have played better on the big screen? I think it actually is, because it is a film that is very much kind of like very cinematic in a way. It's very visual. There's a very simple story, and it does a good job of telling it visually. There's a couple set pieces that I think would have been even better on the big screen. So I do think it's a bit of a shame for this particular film that's not really talky in a way that you can just be on the couch and sort of zone out listening to. But so I do, yeah. But do I appreciate having access to it and seeing it on Hulu? I guess so. I mean, it was easy to watch. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's disappointing. And I mean, I know I'm probably very late to this discussion, since I'm assuming other folks already have had podcasts about it or whatever. But I do believe that it's quite disappointing that Disney, because this was Disney's doing, chose to have this go on streaming on Hulu, as opposed to having any theatrical release.
Right.
I was reading somewhere that this had to do with rights, streaming rights. So I guess anything coming from Fox, if it actually goes to theater, HBO Max has dibs on it, even though Disney owns Fox. So in order to avoid that, just make it go directly to streaming, and then then it would be in, you know, whichever streaming service Disney owns, which in this case would be Hulu. Disney owns both Hulu and Disney Plus.
Right. So it's a business decision, essentially.
Yeah, but I believe that this was a business decision to the detriment of the actual film, because this is a very cinematic film. I mean, there are moments, there are certain scenes, for example, the buffalo scene, where, you know, the skinned buffalo scene, where you have, you know, the really long open plains and you're seeing the buffalo. That scene, I believe, in theaters would have been beautiful to watch. Same with actually the scene where the fur trappers are fighting the predator, or the scenes with the bear. I mean, we got a bunch of scenes that actually on theaters would have been just really beautiful to watch, with the music, full surround sound, all that stuff, as opposed to watching it in your 4K or 1080p TV at home with regular
Right.
TV speakers.
Yeah, I mean, as good as quality as that is these days, it still is not the same as the big screen. And also, it's like, not to mention the audience. If you watch this film with an audience that's really into it, I think it would be add even more to that experience as well.
Yeah, I bet this would have been a people's pleaser, because I mean,
Oh,
the
I think
moments,
so. Yeah.
the moments where you got actions. I mean, there's some and there's some good action here.
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, in my opinion, a lot of the Marvel films don't really do it for me as far as like action and stuff go, and I do think this film delivers in a way that those don't, as far as those set pieces do.
Yeah. So all right, well, let's start talking a little bit about those set pieces.
Okay.
So I think in my opinion, the first set piece that the movie starts sort of building up to is the lion hunt, where you have Naru joining the other basically the crew of hunting, the guys who are basically want to go and hunt the lion that has been attacking someone or whatever. And I think the movie kind of sets up that you already know the predator's there. You already get to see the predator killing a snake, and you already see a guy who was mauled by the lion. So you already know that the lion itself is also very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And there is where you get to see all the different characters. I think this is more than a set piece. This is more building characters, but you do get to see some really cool scenes, especially Naru coming up with the trap, which at the end, gets the lion to go to them, except for she gets attacked on a tree. Now, that tree scene where she's attacked, and before that setup, I think it's one of those moments where the movie does a good job at both developing her character or just setting up her character, which is that she's clever, perhaps not the best fighter. At least in that scene, it shows that she's not really that good at fighting, or it's not bad, but it sets up that she's very clever. It's a clever fighter.
Right. I mean, and that's ultimately the character trait that ends up making her prevail, basically just outsmarting the predator. Yeah, I mean, I think that set piece as a whole is fine. I do agree that there's more character building, especially with her character and her brother's character in there. Yeah, it's a little bit shorter than the other ones, but I do like how the lion just randomly mauls the third guy in the scene. It's just a good way, just like a very burst of violence right there. So, I mean, it's short as far as the set pieces go, but yeah, it is.
But it's short and quick. It does also set up a little bit how hardcore at least her tribe is. Because I mean, like, okay, this guy just gets mauled, and it's like, all right, we move on. We keep on hunting the lion.
That's true. Yeah.
Even her, she's like, oh no, you're supposed to stay home and prepare medicine or whatever. And she's like, no, they need me. And she just pieces out, and they're like, all right, I guess she's gonna get killed. Who knows? Whatever.
Yeah. One thing I do wish was, and I don't know if this had to be done, but one thing, if I was in charge, I think would have been nice to see, is if the characters beyond the brother and her were developed a little bit more, or having like a little bit more distinct body types amongst them, so you could tell them apart. But they're all kind of seem like the same person, where they're all like giving her shit and kind of just misogynistic assholes. More or less. So I think it would have been nice if there was a little bit more to chew into there, and perhaps that's highlighted just because of like the the original, where we do have a couple different distinct people there. Like we talked about, like the Native American in that one, who like goes off to fight the Predator and sacrifice himself there. Sonny Landham, and like Jesse Ventura and all those different people. So maybe just watching these films in close succession leaves me wanting a little bit more of that in this film. Not that they needed to be super chummy, but I would have liked a little bit more to chew into, if only to be like just more interesting meat for the Predator to just bite into, if he's like beating these big beefy guys, or like a big beefy guy or something like that. So that's one thing that I do think would have been nice to see, in my personal view.
No, that's an interesting point. I think this is one of those another of those areas where this one does kind of a 180 from the original. Because I mean, the original, all the well, I mean, there's two different comments I have. So one is about the beefy guys, right? The original, all the soldiers look like, you know, action figures ready to be sold in by Hasbro or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you think about like, how does a real soldier looks like? They look more like the guy with the glasses, right? Like they're lean, they're strong, but they're lean. Like you're rarely gonna see a bodybuilder being an actual soldier.
They're not. Yeah, they didn't have steroids apparently in the 1700s.
No, but I'm talking about like even in the Arnold movie, like you rarely see those people in war. You know why? Because I think being a bodybuilder is actually extremely. It's probably like not very good at, you know, stealth and real like gunfights in being a guerrilla. Like guerrilla fighters tends to be lean because they have to be limber. Now going into this movie, I think this movie tries to actually be realistic. Well, how did the fucking hunters of, you know, a tribe look like? Well, if you look at all of them, they tend to be young, they tend to be lean, so they can move fast and all that shit. So that's I think you know, I actually kind of liked the direction. I actually liked how they didn't look like action figures, and they actually looked like, you know, how I would imagine, you know, an actual hunting team looks like, which is, you know, thin, not thin, but like strong but slender young men.
I agree in terms of realism. You're 100% correct. But I'm not asking for them all to be like Jesse Ventura or whatever. But if you had like one of them, like just one, beefed up, or like just like slightly different, like give them all something like slightly more distinctive.
No, and that was the other. So on your second point, and actually was your first point, the differences between each of the characters. I think I agree with you a little bit. Like the original movie, you literally had the village people there fighting, right? You got your Native American, your black one, your one with the mustache, your nerdy one, like your
white-looking Latino named Ramirez.
Yeah, you had the village people right there, right? Yeah. Obviously, in this one, you cannot have the village people because, you know, they're all in the same tribe, therefore they're all natives. However, they definitely could have had stronger personalities, even if, you know, with all the makeup and all that stuff, they may look the same because they're all literally wearing makeup, and many of their scenes are dark because it's at night. They could have had very much stronger personalities, like and that in the original movie you did have, like the Jesse Ventura character was very clearly, you know, had a very clear personality. Same with
like Bill Duke or any of those guys.
Yeah, all of those. Were very distinct, even personality wise. And I do believe that this movie, and that's the part where I do agree with you. I think, yes, it's great that they were realistic, but it would have been fun to see them all a little bit different instead of being like all of them except for the brother, all of them being interchangeable. Oh, yeah, they're all, you know, misogynistic assholes. Cool.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, it's to the point where I wasn't sure if it was the same character giving her shit every time, or how many different characters it was. So, and in the end, it's never really spelled out more than that. I mean, usually I like it when films get a little simpler, but in this case, I do think I would have liked it if they, just mixed it up a little bit more.
Yeah, have one being the funny one, the other one being like the angry one.
Yeah.
I agree. Now, with that said, though, they were, way more threatening too, though. As just that this misogynistic mass in the moment where they were just like trying to take her, to bring her back to the base or whatever, and she starts fighting them. Once they like actually get to her and start like actually hitting her and beating her, you're like, this is, it's almost a bigger threat because you don't know who is who.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know if someone's a good one or not.
It is good, good for the plot in that sense. I mean, it is simple in the sense that the movie just doesn't care that much if you can distinguish one from the other.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, for a movie that is this short, because this movie is really short, it's like about 100 minutes.
Yeah.
In a world where like movies now are on average at least 2.5 hours.
Yeah. I mean, I like that it's short.
Me too.
I really like, in that sense, I think that kind of fits that really old school, simple premise mode of like kind of a classic B movie.
Right.
With like a strong budget.
But taking to your point, this could have had another 10 minutes to develop these other characters that will be definitely killed anyways. Yeah, you could have used that time. I don't know. But yeah. Anyways, so yeah, character development. That's the first part. The second part would be the second setup is the actual her first encounter with the predator, and I do love that setup because they just keep on upping the ante a little bit, right? You got a bear that attacks her, coming out of nowhere. Well, not from out of nowhere. Once her not showing the best skills when she was trying to hit the bear with an arrow. And then, you replace that bear with the predator. And you get to see a little bit of different elements on how the movie, how she's working, how this world works, and how the predator itself fights. Now, what thoughts do you have about that?
Yeah, I would say the animal attacks ones are they're for me on the mid to lower end of them, but I do like the bear one, just because I do think I'm a little bit more allergic to CGI than you are perhaps, but I mean, for the most part, I think the CGI in this film is pretty competently done and pretty decent, but I do like the way that the bear one is staged. There's clearly a lot of thought that went into just like the way that they're running and the spatial sense and stuff like that, so I do think it works quite well. There we have that booming score that comes in from Sarah Schnacker or Schachner, and and then how the bear kind of just like thuds down at the end. It provides a nice, I don't know, the film as a whole, it's just paced very nicely in these scenes, and it creates a lot of good tension and stuff like that. So I do think it does work quite well as a tense scene, as well as a good action scene too, with the dog running around, and there's just a lot of moving pieces, and it's quite impressively done.
Yeah, I agree. I think, to me, what I like is it provides a really good introduction to the predator itself, to her. I mean, we all saw the predator killing, the snake or whatever, but this is the first time, you get to see one of our main characters seeing the predator, and it does pretty. It's a good introduction, because also you get to, I mean, thematically speaking, you get to see that this world is a world where it's either you are the predator or you're the prey. I mean, when the bear first shows up, the bear is the predator, and then it becomes the prey right in front of her eyes as she's hiding in the dam. And I just like that concept of like how in a blink of an eye that whatever is a predator becomes later the prey. And I think that's a theme that this movie has and actually holds really well.
Yeah. No, I think it executes that well, and that is a theme that is true to the original too. It's trying to detect like the biggest predator, so it can kill the biggest predator. So it makes complete movie logic sense for the predator too. So yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Now I think now we're jumping into the fun set pieces where we get to see actors wearing suits or not wearing suits. And this is the predator versus the fur trappers.
I mean, first the predator also takes on some Comanches too.
Oh, that's right. Do you want to talk about that one?
It's up to you.
No, let's do it. Let's do it. How about you?
Okay. No, I mean, that was actually one of my more favorite ones. The one where it's attacking the Comanches, just because like it really holds the silence there. And they're like giving her shit, and then all of a sudden, like they shoot like the possum or something, and then we just see the predator. This is the first time I think we see predator on human violence, and it just like tears apart the other warriors, the other Comanche warriors, who we see are actually quite competent at fighting. So. I just thought that one was pretty well executed. I mean, there's various CG in there as we see it like chop off limbs and stuff. But I think for the most part, it's pretty well done.
Yeah, no, I think this is one of the first ones where suspense is a big element, as you were mentioning. This is one of those where with the raccoon. Also, it's one of the first scenes where you get to sort of. Not only you get to see the predator fighting the Comanches, but it's the first time you get to see a human seeing technology that they do not understand at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it also just takes great advantage of the natural terrain there and sort of the wide open spaces. It's like we're in obviously a rural area. I mean, everything was rural back then, but like a very wooded area. But it's a very different wooded area than the whatever they shot in Mexico for the original Predator, or from Predator 2 in Los Angeles or something like that. So it's a unique setting to this film, and I think this one where they start out in kind of like a wooded area and they run out into this like wide open grassy area, and a guy pulls her down and stuff like that before she eventually runs into the French people. That for me is when like the movie really starts to pick up, like the bear scene and then that almost back to back. It's like one of those like sequences that just really gets you sort of glued to your seat and just really curious about what happens next. And the movie from then on, I think, really moves at a very fast speed till the very end.
Yeah, no, I agree. Also, this is one of those moments where you get to see that despite being assholes, they do care for each other. I mean, one of the guys who probably before was beating her up, like was like actually trying to protect her as well as she was trying to protect him. Obviously, he ends up dying because the predator is so goddamn fast. And actually, the grassy field part on those plains is probably one of the first times where you get to see how fast the predator is when it's chasing them, and it's just moving like 3 times faster than they are, and you get to see from like that top, like that bird eye view of just the trails that they're all leaving on the grass. So yeah, no, I'm glad you brought this one up. I don't know why I did not type it in, so I'm very glad we talked about it.
Yeah, no, it's a good set piece.
Yeah. And then of course we get the fur traders.
Yes.
So I mean, movie once again. I think when it comes to pacing, this movie is really well paced. And in this one, I actually put it higher than the original Predator.
I mean, I could see that. I like the original Predator more than this film, but yeah, I do think maybe pacing you might be correct. Just because this is a little bit shorter, You don't really feel the length other than maybe just the first bit, but even then I don't think most people are going to feel that. And it just follows that really clear 3-act structure where it's like introduction to stuff, second part, it's like I don't even think you have to have seen a Predator movie to enjoy this film. Second part, we see a bunch of people trying to take on the Predator. Third part, we start with like the French people before she kind of has her final standoff. And it's just littered with set pieces, especially in the second and third act.
Mm-hmm. And they all like very logically follow from each other. In fact, I mean, one thing about this movie that I love is it does not require any exposition. I mean, some people talk about it, but I mean, the dialogues in here are pretty self-explanatory. I mean, and
which is, you know, one reason. Sorry, to your point earlier, that maybe they could have actually gotten away with like just speaking Comanche the whole time. I don't know. It's possible.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's not a lot of dialogue. It's not a dialogue movie.
Right. I mean, like, beyond a couple of details, like, that were spoken. Because, I mean, this movie does a really good job with the setup and payoffs. Actually, perhaps, you know, one could say it's not subtle enough. I'm not sure. But, I mean, their setup and payoffs are all really well placed. I mean, between the quicksand that she later, you know, she falls in and then later uses, which, you know, the setup is her getting caught there and getting out, making her little, you know, modifying her axe to have a rope. Then you have the setup of the medicine, that orange thing, where the first person she cures or helps, you know, cure, becomes really cold, which later you get to see, that makes it so the Predator doesn't see them. It's just those little things, and it does really well. Like, it just sets up little things throughout the entire movie. And I mean, that's a part I just, it was well thought out, it was well written. And why the pacing flows so well from the one part to the other,
and not over complicated. Like, I feel like a trap that certain action directors can fall into is they just want to add more and more and more. And I feel like this film really pares everything down back to the basics in that sense. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, there are some directors like J.J. Abrams, and not just directors, but directors and writers, especially when they do things, that they put a lot of setups, a million setups, and they have no fucking clue what to do with them. I mean, again, J.J. Abrams to me is the best example. You're like, oh, I'm fascinated with all this world. Where is it gonna go? Oh, it didn't go anywhere because he doesn't know how to end things. and I think there are other directors where there's no setup, and things just happens because. And I think I put the first Predator a little bit on that category. Things are just happening. And this just works out because, like, there's very little to actually learn. Like, mud works. Okay, now I'm using mud, but it's like there's no real setup or whatever. And then there's movies where it explains you right there and then why something is working, which is also annoying. This one actually does a really good job at just setting up little pieces, and later having the character figure it out along with the audience. And I think that, to me, makes it quite good, or quite well written. And,
agreed. Yeah.
But yeah, it's, you know, speaking of those, is the fur trappers. They do kind of a good job here setting up her hate towards them. They have her fucking in a cage, hitting her and cutting her brother open in front of her. Also, French trappers are fucking disgusting.
Yeah. And they're French.
And they're French, I know. Speaking their disgusting language.
Yeah. So, I mean, this film does do a good job in the slasher sense of, like, making everyone that dies kind of an asshole, including the Comanche tribe that dies. It's like the only really sympathetic figure that actually dies is her brother, really. just because everyone else in the film that's in any danger is kind of a dick. So her and her brother are the only two you're kind of rooting for.
Yeah.
So yeah, the French are jerks for sure.
Which makes it so sweet to see them being killed.
It does. And the thing I like about the French set piece, I think I like the previous set piece just a little bit more, but the thing I like about the French too is they add that sort of like they visually shift it to kind of like this more nighttime look where you kind of have like the blue tint. And I just like how different it feels from the other ones. You see a couple of the French tactics of like nets and trying to trap it in kind of that old school way and use like their, I don't know what the gun term is, muskets or whatever, to try to shoot it. And so we just get to see, it's just a very distinct set piece in the sense because it's like adapting to the way it's being hunted basically in a different way. And we see a couple different pieces of technology that we hadn't seen up to that point. So I like how it just brings different points in rather than kind of like retreading a very similar set piece to what it had done previously.
Yeah, I it definitely shows the diversity in action, diversity of moves. Because I mean, in the first one when he's fighting the Comanche people, Comanches are actually like they fight him like, like it's a hand to hand fight. The Comanches are actually like when we're talking about fighting, they're really good. It's just it's a fucking predator. That's why they cannot defeat it.
Right.
But they do a really good fight at it, and they make him bleed and all that. While the fur trappers, they have the significantly better weapons, and their techniques and styles are in a way less hand to hand and more item based, right?
Right.
But still interesting to watch. But if you think about it, they were way less successful than the Comanches.
Yeah,
Comanches made it bleed.
Right. They start out pretty well, and then it just kind of all falls apart for the French fur trappers once it's clear that what they know how to do just is not going to work. And they even have significantly more manpower than the Comanches too. But yeah, it's a complete fail.
Yeah. This is one of those set pieces that actually they added a little bit of humor, I believe. Because you're seeing the French trappers, they're all lined up, ready to kill him. As you get to see, like from behind, the horses running away, and one of them, like little by little, they're being killed from behind them. I did enjoy that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's definitely some humor in the French getting mowed down. I mean, there's the part where like three of them shoot at the predator, and it kind of like gets hit, and then it turns around, and then they're like, oh shit, and they're all trying to reload real fast too, and they just all get knocked off real fast. So it's the film really does a good job where you're like, oh wow, you can kind of root for the predator in a way just because the French are such assholes to Nauru.
Exactly.
Classic filmmaking technique.
Exactly. Yeah, great filmmaking technique. Well, then Naru and her brother, whose name is Tabe. Yeah, Naru and Tabe later escape, and then Naru makes probably, in my opinion, one of the less rational things to do, but it allows. But obviously not so much. They do set up how important her dog is, so she's gonna save the dog, while the brother is supposed to get the horses and go home. And here, obviously, you get the next set piece that I think, to me, is one of the best ones when it comes to fighting, and is Naru fighting the surviving Frenchmen.
Yeah, I like it too. I thought that was well done too. It's just nice. Yeah, it's like I thought it kind of showed her premise, and I thought it was well filmed. Just like in terms of logical stuff, it's not overusing fast cuts or stuff like that. So I thought it was cool to see a little human on human before we kind of face off for the predator for the last time.
Yeah, and here I think going to throw in a little tangent and actually talking about the actors a little bit. So Naru is actually is played by Amber Mid Thunder, which is a very badass last name if you think about it. I mean, if your name Meat Thunder, you probably have to be in an action film. I mean, what else are you gonna do? And by the way, I mean, I don't know if I said this before. All the people who portrayed the native characters are actually of native descent themselves. So they all have like native last names. That's where her last name is Mid Thunder. So I mean, whatever reason made it, like, she probably comes from a really badass family. Tabe is played by Dakota Beavers, not so badass.
Yeah. No comment.
Yeah, we're not gonna. Yeah, we probably should not be commenting. But I'm just saying though, I Meat Thunder is just, to me, which is when I learned about the last name, I was like, God damn.
Yeah.
Anyways, Amber Meat Thunders. Have you seen her before in any other films?
I heard she was in Legion, and she was pretty good, but I have not seen that. So no, I have not seen her in anything else.
Yeah, so she's in Legion, and I mean, her main role is literally like whenever she shows up, because she's basically part of a character who shifts bodies, and whenever she shows up is when they're in trouble and they need someone to kick ass.
Oh, okay.
So, and that's because the actual actress is, I think, like a black belt or something in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I don't know if they do belts, but like she's a martial artist.
Uh-huh.
So
physically, she's quite gifted.
Exactly, which is why like once you start like the French scene, with her like basically killing all the Frenchmen, made it quite enjoyable, because you actually get to see like her skills, the actor's skills, and I think that makes
interesting. I didn't know that.
Very well.
Okay, that's good to know. I had not heard that in my research. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, beyond her being, of the correct ethnicity, she's also of the correct techniques to just be a badass fighter.
Right. Yeah. Another thing I didn't know about the casting of this film too is like the Predator was done by a basketball player too, who is big giant Italian American. So can't go wrong there.
Diliegro.
Yeah, I think he's American though. So
yeah.
Yeah. Although I would have loved if he was Italian.
I mean, it's always nice to have a big guy playing the Predator. How tall is he? Oh
6'8".
man, he's 6'8". Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, mamma mia.
Exactly. Yeah, and I mean, he's the Predator always has to be towering everyone else. If not, then it's not working out.
Yeah. Prior to filming, he lost 25 pounds and spent months training parkour, martial arts, and strengthening his neck due to the new design of the Predator, which sat the 15-pound animatronic head on top of his head. Sounds fun.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm very glad they did that, because, animatronics is always beautiful.
Yeah, it is. Practical effects tend to age quite well. So.
Yeah. And, I mean, they're really expensive, but beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyways, great set piece with her killing the Frenchman. I also like how they're finally sort of having her use her axe, her modified axe, sort of like a throw thing that she gets to like pull back. It does a good job of sort of showing her skills that she will be using later on the Predator itself. So yeah, and also we get to see her when her brother shows up. When everyone shows up, the Predator and the brother, you get to see both of them fighting together before the brother gets killed.
Right. Yeah, it's true, and that's a good set piece too.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and then you have the last scene, which is her versus the Predator, and the setup to that. And again, this is, to me, what I like is how you get to see how she basically synthesizes and compiles everything she's seen from watching so many people get killed by the Predator to figure out, oh, okay, this is what I have to do.
Right. She understands the logic of how it works because she's seen it basically on every single time it's been killing a human. So she knows she she's not physically more powerful at this point, but she has the knowledge to defeat it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, and going back to the prey versus predator, I think in the last scene, and this is actually very different from or not very different, but sort of echoes the original movie, but at the same time it's different, is in the original movie Arnold sort of has a plan, but it seems like he still struggles a lot to accomplish it, to the point that at the ending the guy is like he looks really defeated even though he won the fight.
Mm-hmm.
In this one, Naru's plan like goes almost perfectly, like without a hitch, and yet you still get to see really fun fights within it.
I mean, she ends up in some pretty precarious situations at certain points, like the part where her neck almost gets sliced. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, it's true. Her plan does work correctly, and she does win.
Yeah, and I also feel like in her way of fighting, and this goes back to the fighting style, it almost makes sense that it would go better than Arnold, because Arnold basically goes brute force versus brute force. I mean, with some planning, but it's pretty brute force. While like when she attacks the predator jumping from that tree all the way down, it's like she attacks him in a way that basically she's always behind him, wrapped around him, and stabbing the shit out of him.
Right. Yeah. I like that part. And then she like takes away the mask too, which is a key part, because I mean the predator, if it's got a weakness, it's definitely like its eyesight. It doesn't have 20/20 vision, that's for sure. So
yeah, it has a terrible vision. It's like the worst fucking vision ever.
Yeah. Well, I have terrible vision too, so if someone took away my glasses, I feel a little bit of sympathy to the predator.
Right, but do you only see in infrared?
I don't know, you tell me, or I'll tell you. Yeah. If you see 3 triangles on your head at some point, then you'll know.
I'll know. Okay. By the way, speaking of the predator's mask, do we have thoughts on that? Because it's very different from all the other movies.
Yeah, it's kind of like a skull sort of thing.
Yeah.
I hadn't put much thought to it. Do you have any thought on the Predator's mask?
It's creepy, and I like it.
Yeah, it is. Let's see. I don't see a lot about it on the trivia. Okay.
IMDb trivia.
Yeah.
No, it's. I mean, I think it's supposed. I wonder if I know that there's a whole lore in Predator where they fight against each other and shit like that too. So I wonder if this is like within the lore, the entire series. If this is before they're fighting each other, so then maybe the masks are made based on trophies from.
Okay. I actually see in the trivia that the feral predator's biomask is made from the skull of a river ghost from Predators, the 2010 Adrian Brody one. So there we go. It is based off of a past film.
Yeah, so there is some lore I missed out on, but
it's
still
for you, Nathaniel. Most normal people don't care.
Well, I wasn't caring. I thought it was a really cool mask.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah.
Makes it really creepy. And then we have the end of her going back to her tribe with the head of the predator, and everyone's sort of celebrating the same way that they celebrated her brother when he killed the mountain lion.
Yeah.
Which is and that's one part I think it's probably the most hilarious part and the most different from the Arnold movie. In the Arnold movie, like when it ends, everyone is just like defeated.
Yeah.
And terrible. As for in this one, it's almost like really the only people who suffered the predator were the French and the hunting crew, the Comanche hunting crew. But the people of the town, it was like, oh great, another successful hunt.
Yeah.
Let's do the same fucking, like ceremony that we did for your brother.
Yeah. Do you think they ate the predator?
I don't know. I mean, do you think? I mean, looking at that blood, I feel like it would give you cancer.
Fair.
Like, not sure if in the 1700s folks had an idea of what cancer is, but I'm pretty sure that if
Yeah.
you see something glowing in the dark,
Yeah, they see something that looks radioactive, they would be like, yeah, let's stay away from that. Let's just get some more possums.
So yeah, any other scene you want to highlight?
No, I think we talked about just about everything.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a kind of a sweet movie. It's quite short, but in a good way. Now, and the acting, actually, I think the acting is very good too, especially from
Amber
from Amber and Dakota too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, as little as you get to see Dakota, in the few scenes that you see him, when he's killed, you actually feel bad about it.
Yeah, it's true. There is a bit of a emotional weight to it because he's a very sympathetic character too.
Yeah, and even though he's kind of almost at the same level, like he's like, I mean, obviously this is misogynistic cultures, like, and he sort of tries to like accommodate his sister, but at the same time he almost blames her for many of the things that happen.
Yeah. Actually, one interesting thing about Amber Midthunder, I'm winning her Wikipedia right now. Her father is an actor. Her mother, Angelique, is actually Thai Chinese, and is a casting director and stunt actress. So stunt actress, notably. So interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean, and again, you can see, I mean, that jump, the jump she did in that scene, I mean, that was all her, and that's not a small jump, I feel like.
No, it's not. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it definitely, I'm very glad. I think casting wise, they did a really good job. Again, we could argue that they could have written more into the other Comanche hunters.
Right. They did, and the audience response to it was quite good too. It sounds like this was one of the most watched premiere, at least according to the Wikipedia, and so it was the most watched program on all platforms for about a week. So in that sense, it sounds like it was a success, which I think is quite impressive, considering that none of the people that they casted are like huge. We don't have like Matt Damon versus the Predator or anything like that in this film.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So just to do a little not fact checking per se, but clarifying. So when we say according to Wikipedia, this was the biggest movie premiere. Really, the people who said it was Hulu.
Yeah.
So I always take whenever Hulu, Netflix, or whatever other platform is like, oh yes, this movie is the most watched movie in blah blah blah. I'm like, I'm gonna take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, they have different incentives.
Yeah, and what's it called? The Nielsen's rating doesn't look into these things, and there's also always the question of like, okay, would people have gotten out of their house to watch this film in a theater had it been on a theater? I want to say yes, because it has such a strong franchise behind it.
Yeah.
And I believe that the word of mouth would have gotten more people to it.
It's possible. It's certainly possible. It's possible to know at this point, but no. So.
Yeah, and we can only basically base our knowledge on what Hulu says.
It is a good movie, though. Yeah. So, yeah. And it is part of a franchise, and I think it does the franchise justice.
I agree. I think it does the franchise justice. Now, did you, also I do think that the movie plays with the idea of having a sequel. Or perhaps just growing the lore of the franchise in their credits. I don't know if you watched the.
I didn't see that, but I did hear about it when I was listening to a podcast in relation. So, personally, I would actually, rather than seeing a sequel, I would rather see. Well, I mean, it depends how they do the sequel, obviously, but I would like to see just like a similar premise put into different settings. Like, I kind of like that idea. I've seen that tossed out there. Like, put it in like Sweden in the 1400s, or like Japan or something like that, or like just pick a random era and let like a new filmmaker have at it. It's like such a simple premise, and it's a very cinematic premise too, and so I'd love to see the different angles that people can take on this.
Well, it's funny you say that because but by the way, just if anyone thinks that this movie has an after credit scene, it does not. It's a credit themselves that have basically have an animation. The credits themselves, the animation is replaying everything that happened in the movie. However, the very last part of the animation, as the credits are still rolling, is something that does not happen in the movie, which is and by animation is like drawn in as if there were like paintings of that era. And is that 3 spaceships show up on top of them as they're celebrating her.
Yeah. I turned it off in the middle of the animation credits both times I watched it, so I have not seen it.
I like animation. I enjoy animation credits.
It was well done. I was just like, all right, I finished the movie. I'm turning it off.
So what I was gonna say that's funny that you mentioned this is there was. I remember in the 2000s, there was a fan-made short. I forget what year it came out, but there was a fan-made short where the Predator shows up in the Middle Ages.
Huh. Okay. That would be cool.
Yeah, it was like I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah. I mean, I like how this film opens up the possibility that you can bring the film way back to like a time far beyond like more contemporary times.
Oh, actually, according to this, it's 2015. I don't know why I remember. I thought it was earlier, but maybe it was 2015. But yeah, it was a fan-made short that I'm pretty sure it's going to be really difficult to get because obviously they were violating copyright laws by being fan-made.
Yeah. But
I remember it was very fun because it was you were seeing basically knights fighting the Predator.
Yeah. If they made this film in the 1970, if they made the original Predator then, there's no doubt that the Italians would have made about a dozen Predator ripoffs.
But
and probably 2 of them would have been good, and the rest would have been trash.
And you don't know which ones out of the 2 that are good.
Yeah. Pretty much.
No, I agree. But I mean, I'm kind of curious if based on that idea, whether or not they would continue doing that. I do think it would be a fun idea to watch. It could get old really fast. So, I mean, you would have to have really good writers and really good choreography. I think Predator is as much of a horror as it is an action film. And I actually put it almost more on the action film than the horror.
I agree, yeah.
I mean, it's a monster horror. And monster horrors are, by nature, actions.
In some ways, yes, and I feel like these ones are especially action-oriented. Like, if you think about the warriors in this film, like, because the Comanches, they are fighters, they are warriors, including Amber Thunder's character, Naru. And that's also true of the Commandos in the original Predator as well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the only one that was the closest to a horror in a Predator was, I think, the second one.
Predator 2? Yeah, I'd have to think about it, but possibly.
Because it's the only one where the where the guy, the main guy is not really a warrior. He's more of a detective, if I remember correctly.
He is, yeah. He is.
Yeah, and it's just a predator killing things and him investigating it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to think about it more.
It's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah.
Anyways, what are we rating it?
I'll give this a solid 7.5.
You know, I'm gonna give you this an 8. I think I'm rating it higher than the actual original. Whoops.
No, I think you are. I mean,
Yeah.
that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If you like it more as a movie, you like it more as a movie.
What's your souvenir?
I'm taking another mask. I want 2 masks.
All right, I'm gonna take the overly sharpened axe, or tomahawk, or whatever it's called.
Okay.
From her, the one that has the string attached to it.
All right. There you go. I mean, I was tempted to take the sort of like their orange medicine thing. Seems pretty good.
That's true. So your temperature goes down to a level that the predator doesn't see you.
I'd sell it to Big Pharma, make the big dollars.
I mean, if you were Big Pharma, the smartest thing to do would be localizing what exactly makes it work, patenting that even though you didn't do shit, and then patenting the seeds of the plant, so you're like Monsanto's, and then you give it to Big Pharma and be like, hey, you can do something with this, but you gotta pay me royalties.
I mean, this is why I'm friends with a lawyer, so.
All right. Do you have anything else to say about this movie?
Who won?
Ooh. Yeah, I don't know. I want to say the writers or the director. I don't know. I guess the story was written by Patrick Asen and Dan Trachtenberg, who is also the director. So I'll give it to the story writers.
Okay, there you go. I mean, I was tempted to give it to Trachtenberg too. I thought you'd give it to Amber Midthunder, so I'll give it to Amber Midthunder. What?
Sweet, good.
Yeah, but I did want to shout out Trachtenberg because we haven't mentioned his name too much. But he directed 10 Cloverfield Lane and supposedly one of the better episodes of Black Mirror. And 10 Cloverfield Lane, also a really solid genre film. That one has Mary Elizabeth Winstead. That one's definitely a solid recommend too. Like a lot of drama, like claustrophobic, where they're stuck in like this enclosed space. So I think he's a director that I will watch because he's clearly attracted to this genre affair, and I'm just really curious on what he will tackle next because I think he's one of the more gifted ones sort of doing these films these days. So yeah, just really curious to see.
Yeah, no, I think he is definitely showing some good stuff. I also hope to see Amber Midthunder in more films. I believe that she did really good job here. So yeah,
absolutely.
All right, well, if there's not much to say, this is the end for this episode. Please, if you have any comments, ideas, anything, concerns for some reason, please email us at zafilm2film@gmail.com. That's zafilm2film with the number 2 at gmail.com. You can also tweet at us at zafilm2film, and also our YouTube channel that's where you watch things are in zafilm2film. Obviously, this is a podcast, so I'm assuming you're listening in your favorite podcast system, whether that is Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever it's called, or I don't know, all the other podcast services. If they allow you to rate us high. If you want to comment in whatever system you use and you want to comment, we actually do get notified for comments. Put a comment. We don't hear from you guys. Our amazing How many listeners do we have?
We have like, I mean, it was like 40 people listened to last week's episode, so that's not
There you
nothing.
go.
It's like we have listeners all over the world.
All right, yeah, worldly listeners. Put a comment. I want to see if this is an experiment. I want to see if you guys are listeners or just bots.
Yeah, well, we either have listeners or bots in the U.S., the U.K., Canada, Germany, Sweden, Chile, France, India, Italy, Australia, Ireland, Spain. There's a bunch more too. So
yeah, I want to hear from something from you guys. Anyways, that was my little rant. And yeah, anything else you want to say?
Nope, that's it. We'll see you guys next time for another October horror movie.
All right. Ciao.
Ciao.